As geeks and nerds, we are no strangers to adaptations. Some of them really good, some of them not good at all. But what's the point of adapting these stories into other mediums? Today on Geek Devotions, we're going to talk about that, and we're also going to talk about the need for adaptation of how we present the greatest story ever told. Hello, Devoted Geeks. Welcome to Geek Devotions, a show from devoted geeks who are devoted to letting people know that they are loved. I'm Dallas, and I'm so glad you hit the play button today. Partially because if you're new to the show, what we do is we take geek pop culture items, we use them to let people know they're loved. So if you don't watch anything past this moment, know this: you're loved. Really, you're loved. We care about you. It's a thing. As I said in my intro, as geeks, we are no strangers to adaptations of some of our favorite stories of all times. Like I said, some of them are really good. Some of them crash and burn. Whether it be from mangas to feature-length anime films or live-action adaptations, maybe it's video games into movies. Sometimes it's even movies into books, into other story forms. We see this take place on a regular basis, and these things are celebrated, and some of them are not celebrated at all. Even some of our favorite things that we have today are adaptations of previous things. The Lion King is simply a retelling of a Shakespearean story. And then we have the world for all you Disney geeks out there. Most of your stories that you love are retellings or adaptations of older books, older stories. And to be honest, some of them are pretty dark. I'm looking at you, Cinderella. Some weird stuff going on there. Yet, as time goes by, we take these adaptations and we watch them. We take part in them. We enjoy them. Why? Because there's an aspect of it. There's a portion of that story that's being told. And that's the reason why we have these adaptations that take place, is because there's a central aspect of the story that somebody has come to know and love. And they're like, you know what? I need to share this portion of the story. I need to share this aspect that I love so much because I want the next generation to experience this. And so we take the story and we tell it again. We share it in a new way, in a new medium. Years ago, the only way we shared stories was through vocalization. We shared them around campfires. Then somebody's like, hey, we should write these down. So they started writing these things down. And then you had public readings. And then everybody's like, hey, we should have books. And so they started having books, and people would buy books on a regular basis and read them, and they were awesome. And then people came up with this thing called the radio. And all of a sudden we're back to telling stories again over by vocal, but now it's this mass production of it. And then all of a sudden we have moving pictures, movies, TVs. We have these different art forms, whether it be live action, whether it be anime, whatever it is, these presentations of stories. And most of these stories, they're not new. We're retelling these old stories. Why? Because there's something amazing in them that's caught our attention. We want to present it in a new way to a new audience, in a way that captures their love. Behind me is a poster from Metropolis, which was a silent film from way back in the day. It was like a 3-hour silent film. It was a huge production, and it's a really beautiful, gorgeously done piece of art. And it's been redone. It's been remade in a variety of ways. Osamu Tezuka took it, and he did his own version. He didn't call it Metropolis technically, but it was the story of Metropolis. DC Comics even took it, and they did their own version of it in one of their Elseworld stories. Why? Because it's a beautiful story, and they feel like they needed to share with new audiences in a new way. In the same way, there is one great story, the greatest story ever told, and that is the love of God and how He created man. And though we, in our sinful manner, have rebelled against Him, He made a way so we can have hope and we can have salvation, and that was through His Son, Jesus. But that story has to be told in a different way sometimes. Why? Because different audiences, they're just not going to connect in the same way. They're not going to sit in your church and listen to a pastor preach for an hour. They just won't. Sometimes you got to connect with people in a different way because they see things differently or they hear things in a different way. And so you have to walk them through what is actually happening in the story. The Apostle Paul understood this mindset, and that's why he ministered in a variety of ways over the years. And we kind of see that even in his presentation within the scriptures in each book that he's written. He summarizes this mindset in the book called 1 Corinthians. Chapter 9, starting in verse 20, says this: To the Jews, I became a Jew in order to win Jews. To those under the law, I became as one under the law, though not being myself under the law, that I might win those under the law. To those outside the law, I became as one outside the law, not being outside the law of God, but under the law of Christ, that I might win those outside the law. To the weak I became weak, that I might win the weak. I have become all things to all people, that by all means I might save some. I do it all for the sake of the gospel, that I may share with them in its blessings. So we see in the scriptures that Paul was very intentional about how he presented the truth of Jesus Christ to the variety of people that he ministered to. Us here at Geek Devotions, we speak to you guys in geek culture, so we use geeky basis for certain things. Example, this right here, talking about adapting our favorite things, and why people shouldn't adapt some of our favorite things. Our friends over at God Squad Church, they use video game language. They use illustrations from gaming culture to present the gospel to individuals. The people within the Fellowship of Christian Athletes use sport analogies when they're ministering to athletic individuals, people who sport. But just because we present it in a different way doesn't mean that the story changes. Let me give you guys a really great example.
Alright, so currently I'm sitting outside one of my favorite coffee shops, CC's, not a sponsor, but if you guys would like to, up for it. But anyways, I got 2 drinks. A latte and iced latte. They're the same ingredients, the same stuff is in it, except for one has been adapted for when you're in, hot weather. This tastes really good. It's iced. This one tastes really good, but it's hot. That's the only difference between them. They're the same thing, but one's been adapted to work for a different environment, for a different place. Now, I know some of you guys are going, but Dallas, this is watered down. We're not talking about taking anything out. This is still the exact same thing as this. It's just that there's something added to it to help for the environment that it's in. At no point in time am I saying that when we adapt the scriptures, when we adapt our presentation of the scriptures, that we take anything out of this, take anything out of the Bible. It's got to stay exactly what we have inside. But the way we present to people can be done in a way that works in the environment that we are in. So again, same thing, just a different way of presenting it. Let's get back to the studio.
So like I said in my illustration with the coffee, which by the way was really good, I'm not really amped. I probably should slow down a little bit. So like I said in my example, we're not watering the gospel down. We're bringing the full truth. It's just that we're presenting it in a way that they can understand it and receive it. Sometimes people will spend so much time presenting the gospel in this way that is really above other people's heads. And honestly, some of it is because they're trying to sound smarter than others. There's a superiority aspect to it, and that's wrong. Some of it's just the way that they were taught, and they don't know any other way of presenting the gospel. But when they do that, they don't realize they're putting in a front. They're blocking other people from experiencing God in a real way because they're allowing language and culture to stand between them and the truth of Jesus Christ. So here is my challenge / my encouragement for you guys. Share the gospel with everyone that you can, but do it in a way that they'll understand. Don't feel like you had to have a college degree to present the gospel. Now, don't get me wrong. I am so thankful for my experiences at Bible college. They prepared me for a lot of things, and there's things that I wouldn't understand today if I had not gone to Bible college, just being honest with you guys. But you don't have to have a degree in it. You don't have to have a lockdown, all the terminology of pneumatology and soteriology to be able to present the truth of Jesus Christ to individuals in a way that they can understand. So be creative and present the gospel however you can. So the question of the week, really simple, is what's your favorite adaptation of a story that you love? Whether it be a movie, whether it be a book that's been translated to a movie, or whatever it is, let me know. Leave comments down below and let us know your thoughts, okay? Also, I'll remind you guys that starting next week is our Tim Burton month. And I'm really hoping that some of you guys can send me some ideas because I don't want to call it Tim Burton month. I need something more creative. So leave comments, let me know. But all next month, guys, everything's based off Tim Burton films and stories, so it's going to be fun. I want to encourage you guys, don't forget to check out all of our social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just look for Geek Devotions. Also, don't forget, check out our website, geekdevotions.com, where we are updating things as we go. I just dropped a new article on there, and guys, it's coming together, all right? Everything's coming back together. Celeste and I, we had a rough couple of months, and we're getting back on our feet, and we're rocking and rolling. We're super excited about it, okay? So until next time, remember, stay devoted, peace, and love.